Hi there, welcome to What? And it's series 16 and number 33. Thank you for your comments about us doing over 200 editions. It was really nice to hear from you. We're again talking about Joshua. We're now up to verse 31 of chapter 43. And this is where they have lunch with Joshua. Then he washed his face and came out and restrained himself and said, "Serve the bread." So what's happened here is he's met Benjamin, and he'd never really had anything to do with Benjamin before. So this is emotional for him. So they send him a place by themselves and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat food with the Hebrews, for it was an abomination to the Egyptians. Right, you've got that? They sent him, in other words, they segregated them. Joseph didn't eat with his brothers because at that time Egypt was one of the most racially separated societies on earth. They believed that Egyptians came from the gods and all other people came from lesser origin. There was little social mixing of foreigners in the Egyptian time when Joseph was there. You see, the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, in other words, the Egyptian guys were there were some officials at the party too, but they wouldn't sort of get together with Joseph's brothers because they didn't know that he was brothers just at this point. Even with all his status and power, Joseph really still couldn't eat with the Egyptians because they knew he was actually a Hebrew. Now, it all gets very confusing, doesn't it? It is known from Herodotus, who's an ancient author, that the Egyptians so hated things foreign that priests at least ate and drank nothing that was imported or would not use utensils used for eating made by anybody else. That's extreme, but that's what they were like. And here we see the wisdom of God. Before the Genesis account actually ends, God brought the entire family of Jacob into Egypt, where they were isolated from the surrounding people for some 400 years. In that time, of course, we know that they multiplied greatly, increasing to probably a couple of million people. If God had allowed them to remain in Canaan, they probably would have started to assimilate into the corrupt and godless peoples that actually were at Canaan at that time. God not only had to take the family of Israel out of the corruption of the location of Canaan, but he had to put them in a racially separated situation so they wouldn't intermarry or intermingle, because there's no ways the Egyptian was going to be marrying into someone who was a Hebrew, that's for sure. God simply sent Joseph on ahead to make the arrangements. Verse 33 and verse 34, we see Joseph arranges them in order of birth and shows favour to Benjamin. This must have spun them out. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked in astonishment at one another. Then he took servings to them before him. But Benjamin's serving was 5 times as much as any of theirs. So they drank and were merry with him. The firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. Do you get that? In other words, he put them in order all the way down. No wonder the brothers were filled with astonishment. This arrangement couldn't have happened by chance. How would he have known? Statistically, the odds of placing 11 brothers in precise birth order is something around 1 in 400 million. So the chances of it just happening by accident is just not going to happen. Benjamin's serving was 5 times as much as others. Well, this was another test, seeing how the brothers reacted when the younger was especially favoured. This was an appropriate test because the brothers resented it so much when Joseph was favoured so much by his father. Remember, the coat of many colours, etc. What we see here is that Joseph wanted to see if there was a real change in the heart of his brothers or if they were the same men who threw him into a pit. What do we think? What's the test that we have to evaluate whether people have changed or not? How do we think about that? Should we be testing them or should we allow God to point it out? There's something for you to think about throughout the week. Bless you.